Is everything to your liking, sir?
Yes, it's excellent, thank you.
They say silence can kill faster than a bullet. And Lorenzo Blackwood. His silence had destroyed empires. Picture this: New York's most exclusive restaurant. A place where even senators don't dare make eye contact with the wrong person. And sitting at the corner table. The most feared billionaire in America. But here's where it gets crazy. A 23-year-old waitress with holes in her shoes is about to break every rule. She's not supposed to speak. She's not even supposed to breathe too loud around this man. But when she sees something in his eyes, something no one else has noticed, she does the unthinkable. She leans in close and whispers a word, just one, in Italian, and that single word, it doesn't just stop dinner, it stops time. It brings an 80-year-old dynasty crashing down in ways you won't believe. Stay with me, because what happens next will blow your mind. Here's the thing about Manhattan: if you really want to disappear, you don't hide in the shadowed site. At a place like Levon on 57th Street, the lighting's so dim you can barely see your own hand. The clientele so wealthy they treat waiter invisible. Like furniture with a pulse. Clara's hands are shaking as she ties her apron. 9 hours on her feet. Cheap knockoff shoes cutting into her skin. But she can't afford to feel the pain. Not when rent's due in 3 days. Not when her mom's medical bills back in Ohio are burying her alive. Table 1 arrives in 5 minutes. Henry, the restaurant manager, barks into his headset like a drill sergeant. He lines up the wait staff like soldiers before a battlefield. Listen up. You don't speak unless spoken to. You don't offer specials, you don't ask questions. You pour, you place, you've all understood. Yes, chef, they all whisper back. Clara's throat goes dry. Table 1. The Blackwood table. Everyone fears it. Adrian Blackwood, 32 years old. Silicon Valley golden boy, converted his father's old money into tech billions. Drop dead gorgeous and ruthless as hell. Word is he once fired someone for breathing too loudly during a meeting. But Adrian isn't the one who makes everyone sweat. It's his father. Lorenzo Blackwood. 80 years old. The patriarch. The rumors about this man, chilling. They say he hasn't spoken a kind word since his wife died 20 years ago. They say he once bought an entire hotel chain just to fire a valet who scratched his car. This is a man built from old world steel and new world cruelty. Clara. Henry snaps, making her jump. You're on water and bread for table 1. One drop on that tablecloth and you're tonight. Permanently. I won't let you down, Henry, Clara whispers. I don't care about you, he sneers, fixing his cuffs. I care about a bonus. Now go. The doors swing open. And suddenly, the oxygen gets sucked right out of the room. First, the bodyguards sweep in, eyes like hawks, missing nothing. Then Adrian Blackwood. 6 feet of tailored perfection, pulling an earpiece from his ear as he crosses the threshold. And then, Lorenzo, wheelchair. Stone-faced nurse pushing him. A tuxedo that looks like it time traveled from the 1950s, immaculate, severe, perfect. His face is a roadmap of wrinkles and sun-damaged skin. His eyes are dark, watery, staring at absolutely nothing. He looks like a king who conquered the entire world. Only to realize he hates the view. The whole restaurant goes silent. Even the forks stop clinking. Toss the power of the Blackwoods. Clara grabs the crystal pitcher. Her heart is pounding so hard she thinks everyone can hear it. Just pour the water, she tells herself. Pour and disappear. They settle at the prime corner table, roped off by velvet barriers like royalty. Clara approaches, her shoes screaming with every step. Adrian smells like expensive cologne, sandalwood and money. But Lorenzo, he smells different. Old peppermint. Memories. Father, please. Adrian's voice is tight, frustrated. The board needs a decision on the merger by Monday. You can't keep stalling. Lorenzo doesn't even blink. He's staring at the empty white plate in front of him like it's a black hole. I'm not stalling. Lorenzo's voice sounds like gravel in a cement mixer. I'm thinking. You've been ing for 6 months. Adrian snaps, flicking his napkin onto his lap. You're jeopardizing everything we've built, the legacy. Why? Clara steps forward. The pitcher feels like it weighs 100 pounds. She moves to Lorenzo's right side, executing the pour perfectly. The water cascades silently into the crystal glass, and that's when she sees it. Lorenzo's hand twitches. He doesn't look at her, But his voice cuts through the entire room. The water is too cold. Clara freezes. The ice clinks softly in the glass. Adrian sighs, rubbing his temples like he's got a migraine. Father, it's water. Just drink it. It hurts my teeth. Lorenzo's voice drops dangerously low. They bring me ice when I have old bones. No one thinks. Incompetence. Henry is already rushing over, his face white as a sheet. My deepest apologies, Mr. Blackwood. I'll replace it immediately. He shoves Clara aside, not gently. She stumbles, barely keeps her balance, clutching the pitcher. Heat floods her cheeks. She's invisible. But somehow, she's still the problem. From the shadows of the service station she watches them. The son obsessed with the future. The father trapped in a failing body, surrounded by luxury he seems to hate. This is going to be a long night. By 9 p.m. the tension at table 1 is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Chef Marco, temperamental genius, ego the size of Manhattan, has sent out 3 courses. The amuse-bouche, delicate foam of scallops and truffle. The appetizer, foie gras with fig reduction. The pasta, lobster ravioli with saffron cream. Lorenzo Blackwood hasn't taken a single bite. Every plate comes back to the kitchen Felico. He's losing his mind. Dios caus me, Marco shouts, throwing a spoon across the steel counter. This is the finest menu in New York. Does he want a hella chat what he wants? His old chef. Clara ventures softly from the pickup window. Maybe he's just not hungry. You don't speak about the Geparks. Take the bread, Gio. Clara hurries back out. The dining room is buzzing, but there's still this zone of silence around table 1. Adrian is eating, but he's agry. Cutting his steak with aggressive strokes, the knife screeching against porcelain. You have to eat something, Dad. Adrian says, not looking up. The nurse says your weight is down again. The food tastes like metal. Lorenzo grumbles, picking at the tablecloth with a gnarled finger. It has no soul. Plastic food for plastic people. This is a Tishari on-star restaurant. Adrian hisses, stop being difficult just to punish me. I don't need to punish you. Lorenzo finally looks at his son. His eyes are sharp, lucid, filled with profound disappointment. You punish yourself enough with your greed. Adrian drops his fork. It clatters loudly. Several heads turn. I am securing our FUR. Adrian's voice trembles with rage. I'm trying to keep the name Blackwood Relat while you sit here and rot. The insult hangs in the air like smoke. The nurse looks away, embarrassed. Lorenzo doesn't yell. He just shrinks, slumps in his wheelchair. The fight drains out of him. He looks suddenly incredibly small. Like a man who wants to go home but doesn't know where home is anymore. Clara approaches with the bread basket. Artisan sourdough, crusty and warm, served with cultured butter. She places it on the table. Lorenzo reaches out with a shaking hand and touches the crust. He doesn't take a piece. Just feels the texture. Too hard, he whispers. Everything is too hard. Clara pauses. She's supposed to walk away. Henry is watching her from the podium like a hawk. But something in Lorenzo's voice stops her. It's not just a complaint. It's not just a grumpy billionaire being difficult. It's the tone. The specific cadence of a man who's speaking English, but thinking in another language. Clara looks at his hands. They're calloused despite decades of wealth. Working hands. She remembers reading in a tabloid that Lorenzo Blackwood wasn't born rich. He came over on a boat in the 1950s, a devastatingly poor immigrant who worked in steel mills before he bought them. She looks at the untouched fancy food. The sourdough bread. And then she remembers her own grandfather. Nonno Pietro. He was a carpenter in Ohio. When he got old and the dementia started, he stopped eating hospital food, said it tasted like nothing. That's when Clara realizes what's happening. Lorenzo isn't being difficult. He's Xerox. He's starving for a mumora. She shouldn't do it. If she speaks, she'll be fired. Henry is staring right at her. She needs this job, she needs the tips. But looking at this old man, seeing the sheer loneliness in his eyes, Clara's heart breaks. She takes a step closer, breaking the invisible barrier. Adrian looks up, annoyed. What is it? We didn't ask for anything. Clara ignores him, ignores the billionaire, ignores the nurse. She looks directly at Lorenzo Blackwood. She leans down, breaching protocol until her face is level with his. The room seems to stop. Henry starts speed walking toward the table, eyes wide with panic. Clara takes a breath. Looks at the bread, then at Lorenzo, and she whispers one word. Scarpetta. She says it softly, with a perfect rolling Italian accent. It's not just a word. It's and Lorenzo's head snaps up. For the first time all night his eyes focus completely. He looks at Clara. Ralla, why looks you say? He rasps. Henry arrives at the table, breathless. Mr. Blackwood, I am so sorry. This waitress is new, she's leaving Amendual. He reaches out to grab Clara's arm. Lorenzo raises one hand. Stop. The command is absolute. Henry freezes, hand hovering inches from Clara's elbow. Lorenzo turns back to Clara, his eyes are wide, searching her face. Say it again. Clara ignores the trembling in her knees, ignores Adrian's furious glare. She smiles a sad, knowing smile. Per la scarpetta, she whispers. It literally means, make the little shoe. It's an Italian idiom for taking a piece of bread and using mop up the last of the tomato sauce on your plate. It's something you do at home. In the kitchen. With your family. It's rude in high society, peasant behavior, but to an Italian who grew up with nothing. It's the best part of the meal, it's comfort itself. Lorenzo stares at her. His mouth opens slightly. The mask of the angry billionaire cracks, and underneath, the face of an immigrant boy peers through. My mother. Lorenzo whispers. She used to say, if you don't do the scarpetta, the chef will cry. Because the sauce is the soul, Clara finishes for him quoting an old proverb her nonno used to say. Lorenzo's eyes fill with tears. Actual tears. Adrian looks between them, completely confused. What is going on? What did she say to you? Lorenzo ignores his son. He points a shaking finger at the fancy lobster ravioli sitting cold on the table. This is not food. I cannot eat art. He looks at Clara. Do they have sugo? Real sugo. Clara knows the menu. There's no simple tomato sauce, just reductions, glazes. I can ask the kitchen, Clara says softly. But I think I know what you need. She turns to Henry, who looks like he's having a stroke. Henry, her voice is surprisingly steady. Ask Marco for a bowl of plain spaghetti. Al dente, olive oil, and a side of the marinara he makes for the staff meal. Not the customer sauce, the staff sauce. Are you Anthony? Henry hisses. We cannot serve staff food to table one? Dio Ateo Lorenzo roars, the sound echoes off the mahogany walls. The entire restaurant jumps. Do as she says. Lorenzo slams his hand on the table. And bring me bread, seif bread, not this rock. Henry turns on his heel and esperance toward the kitchen. 2. For the next 10 minutes, the restaurant exists in suspended animation. Adrian sits in stunned silence. Watching his father, Lorenzo is watching Clara. Where are you from? Lorenzo asks. His voice isn't gravel anymore, it's lighter high-o. Clara says, but my family, we're from Abruzzo. Abruzzo. Lorenzo nods, a faint smile touching his lips. Hard land, strong people, stubborn people. Clara corrects with a smile. Lorenzo lets out a sound that shocks everyone. A laugh. It's rusty dry, but it's elagish, stubborn. When Henry returns, he's carrying a simple white bowl. Inside is spaghetti coated in bright, oily red sauce, the simple garlic and tomato sauce the dishwasher's mother makes for staff before service. It smells like basil and home. He places it in front of Lorenzo. Clara takes a piece of soft Italian roll from a different basket she raided from the back. Places it next to the bowl. Lorenzo doesn't wait for silverware. He picks up the fork, twirls a massive bite, shoves it in his mouth. Sauce gets on his chin. He doesn't care, he chews. Closes his eyes, swallows. Then he takes the bread, wipes the bowl clean. Scarpetta. He eats the bran. Lorenzo says, mouth full. Yes. Father. Adrian sounds terrified. This is go taste it. Adrian blinks. Looks at the cheap pasta. Looks at the waitress who just orchestrated a coup in the middle of a 3-star dinner. I'm Lorenzo. Turns to Clara. What is your name? Clara. Clara Rixey. Richie. Lorenzo nods. Wipes his mouth with the linen napkin, staining it bright red. Clara Rixey. You are the first person in 5 years who has looked at me and seen a man. Not a bank account. He reaches into his tuxedo pocket. Dad, don't. Adrian warns, thinking he's reaching for his wallet. We handle gratuity digitally. Lorenzo pulls out a small battered leather notebook. Opens it to a blank page. Scribbles something with a gold pen. Tears the page out. Hands it to Clara. If you ever get tired of carrying water for idiots, Lorenzo says, glancing at Henry. Call this number. Ask for Beatrice. Tell her you know what scarpetta means. Clara takes the paper and a name. Thank you, signor, she whispers. Lorenzo turns back to his pasta. He eats the whole bowl. The dinner finishes. The Blackwoods leave. As soon as the doors close, Henry marches up to Clara. His face is pure PL. You think you're smart? Henry spits. You think because the old man liked your little stuff, you're 8, Clara says. He hasn't eaten in months, Henry. Yulin était the chef. You humiliated me, you serve good to a billionaire. Henry rips the apron off her waist. G to Ode, don't bother clocking out. Clara stands there, apron in her hand. The noise of the kitchen roars behind her. But in her pocket, there's a piece of paper with a phone number. And for the first time in months, Clara smiles. Because sometimes one word changes everything. Paper 30. The price of the genius. She saved the dinner, she lost her job. Clara walks out into the cold New York night, the paper clenched in her fist. She doesn't know it yet, but that piece of paper is a key. And she just unlocked a door that's been sealed for 50 years. But back inside the restaurant, Adrian Blackwood is still sitting at the table. Long after his father's been wheeled out. He's staring at the empty space where Clara stood. He pulls out his phone, dials. Run a background check. Adrian's voice is ice cold. Clara Ritchie. Find out who she is, find out He pauses. Looking at the crumbs of bread left on his father's plate. My father just gave her access to the private line. I want to know if she's a hustler or a spy. Another pause. And find out why the hell my father looked at her like he recognized her. B7 de Toular. Clara is staring at a bright orange eviction notice taped to the peeling paint of her apartment door in Queens. Henry didn't just fire her. He off-blasted her. In the tight-knit world of high-end Manhattan dining, word travels faster than a grease fire. She insulted a VIP. 2 interviews she managed to secure got cancelled via text before she even arrived. Inside her tiny apartment, the air is thick with stale coffee and mounting panic. Her phone buzzes on the cheap laminate counter. The collection agency for her mother's Ohio hospital bills. Again, Clara lets it go to voicemail. She sinks onto her futon, head in her hands. The adrenaline from that night has faded. What's left is crushing reality. She stood up for humanity. And humanity rewarded her by taking away her livelihood. Her eyes drift to the small wobbly coffee table. Sitting there, anchored by a lukewarm mug of tea, is the torn page from Lorenzo Blackwood's notebook. Beatrice, and a number. It feels insane. Lorenzo Blackwood is known for crushing unions and bankrupting rivals. He's not a savior. That moment in a restaurant, it had to be a fluke. A senile whim brought on by low blood sugar. If she calls that number, she's terrified of what will happen. Best case, humiliating rejection by some high-powered executive assistant. Worst case, Adrian Blackwood decides she's trying to exploit his father and unleashes his lawyers on her. The phone buzzes again. Another collection call. Clara grabs the piece of paper. Her hand is shaking so badly she misdials the first time. Deep breath, she steadies herself, dials again. 2 ring. Blackwood residence, private office. This is Beatrice Vance speaking. The voice is intimidating, crisp, precise. Mid-Atlantic accent that sounds like money and old movies. This isn't a secretary. This is a gata par. Hello, Clara stammers, throat tight. My name is Clara Ritchie. I met Mr. Lorenzo Blackwood a few nights ago at Lavon. He gave me this number. Silence stretches on the line. Clara can hear the faint scratching of a pen on paper. Clara Ritchie, Beatrice repeats, tasting the name. The waitress with the scarpetta. Clara freezes. Yes, that's me. Mr. Blackwood has been expecting your call for 2 days, Miss Ritchie. He was beginning to think you had more sense than to get involved with this family. I almost didn't, Clara admits. But you're desperate, Beatrice states. Not unkindly. Just fact. Henry at Lavon is a vindictive little weasel. We assumed he would fire you. Clara feels a spark of anger. You assumed and you didn't do anything. We were waiting to see if you had the courage to call, Beatrice says smoothly. Lorenzo doesn't hire cowards. A beat. Can you be at the estate in Oyster Bay by 2 p.m. today? The estate. I thought this might be for a job at one of his other restaurants. Beatrice lets out a short, sharp laugh eerily similar to the one Lorenzo gave at the restaurant. My dear girl. Lorenzo Blackwood hasn't cared about restaurants in 30 years. He doesn't want a waitress. Pause. He wants a memory. 2 p.m. Don't be late. The gate code is 1923. The line goes dead. Clara spends her last 40 hours on a train ticket to Long Island and a cab from the station. The Blackwood estate is terrifying. It's not a house. It's a fortress. Grey stone looming over the Long Island Sound. High iron gates swing open silently when the cab driver punches in the code. The driveway is a mile long, lined with ancient oak trees that seem to lean in, whispering warnings. When Clara steps out of the cab, she feels incredibly small. Her clothes, clean black slacks and a sensible gray sweater, feel cheap against the backdrop of manicured lawns and towering architecture. The massive front door opens before she can knock. Standing there is a woman who looks like she was carved from the same granite as the house. Beatrice Vance is perhaps 70, tall, imposing with steel gray hair pulled back in a severe bun. She wears a tailored wool suit that probably costs more than Clara's car back in Ohio. Her eyes are sharp, intelligent, and assess Clara from head to toe in a microsecond. You're thinner than you look on camera, Beatrice says by way of greeting. On camera. The restaurant security footage. Adrian had it pulled within an hour of you leaving. She steps aside. Come inside, Miss Rixey. We have much to discuss before the wolf arrives. The wolf. Adrian. Beatrice says dryly, letting Clara enter the cavernous marble foyer. He thinks he runs this place. He runs the business. I run Lorenzo. There is a significant difference. Beatrice leads Clara not to an office but to a vast, sterile library that smells like leather bindings and dessous. She gestures to a wingback chair designed to the occupant feel inferior. Let's be clear. Miss Ritchie, Beatrice begins, standing by a cold fireplace. Lorenzo is dying. Not quickly, which is a mercy, but slowly, which is torture. His body is giving up. But his mind is trapped in a loop of regret and nostalgia. Adrian, his son, believes the solution is to medicate him into compliance, and keep him alive long enough to secure the next quarter's earnings. Clara listens, mesmerized by Beatrice's bluntness. What Adrian fails to understand, Beatrice continues, eyes narrowing, is that his father is starving to death in a room full of food. Spiritual starvation. That performance at the restaurant. That was the first time in 5 years I've seen the real Lorenzo peek through the fog. I just gave him spaghetti, Clara whispers. You gave him permission to be human, Beatrice corrects. Lorenzo wants to hire you. Not as staff, he has enough staff who fear him. He wants a companion. Someone who speaks his language. And I don't just mean Italian. Someone who understands that a tomato is more than just an ingredient. What would I have to do? Be there. Talk to him. Argue with him if you must. Cook for him real food, not that French nonsense. Make him remember why he fought so hard to build all this in the first place. Beatrice pauses. The pay is $150,000 a year. Plus room and board here at the estate. Full benefits for you and your mother. Another pause. We know about her condition. We own the insurance company that keeps denying her claims. Clara feels scared. The amount of money is staggering, it solves everything. But the manipulation makes her skin crawl. You own the insurance company. Adrian does, Beatrice clarifies with distaste. Leverage is his preferred currency. Before Clara can process the offer, the heavy oak doors slam open. Adrian Blackwood strides in. He looks different than he did at the restaurant. There, he was annoyed. Here on his home turf, he's proud or. His eyes are cold blue fire, his jaw is set in a hard line. He's holding a manila folder. Get out. Beatrice, Adrian snarls, not looking at the older woman. His eyes are fixed on Clara like laser sights. Beatrice doesn't flinch. I am conducting an interview at your father's request, Adrian. Mind your manners. My father is mentally compromised, and while you are enabling a graftier. Adrian throws the folder onto the table in front of Clara. Photos spill out. Clara looks down. Leaving her apartment. Walking into the pawn shop yesterday to sell her grandmother's ring. A photo of her mother, frail, hooked up to dialysis machines in Ohio. A copy of her father's death certificate from a factory accident 10 years ago. The subsequent debts he left behind. Clara Rixey, Adrian recites. Voice dripping with disdain. 23. College dropout. Father died owing the bank 80,000. Mother has end-stage renal failure. You are currently 3 months behind on rent. You just pawned a gold ring for 200. He leans forward. You are Wunji Miss Ritchie, and you saw my father as a life raft. Clara feels violated. Every secret pain she owns is spread out on the mahogany table. Tears prick her eyes. But she refuses to let them fall. She stands up, faces the billionaire. I didn't Kainamu who was when I served him. Clara's voice trembles with fury. I saw an old man who was say something you've probably never bothered to notice. Adrian laughs, a harsh, barking sound. Spare me the bleeding heart routine. Everyone wants something from the Blackwoods. You found his weak spot, his sentimental streak for the old country. It was a good con. Clever. He pulls a checkbook from his inside jacket pocket. Uncaps a fountain pen. $50,000. Adrian says, writing quickly, Tash, today you take it. You walk out that door and you NVR speak to my father again. You use it to help your mother get back on your feet. It's more than you'll make in 2 years serving pasta. He rips the check out. Holds it toward her. It's a lifeline. It's freedom from fear for the first time in years. Clara looks at the check. Then she looks at Adrian's smug, victorious face. He thinks everyone and everything can be bought. He looks at her the same way he looked at that lobster ravioli. An object to be consumed or discarded based on its utility. Then she thinks of Lorenzo's eyes when he ate the bread. The look of a man who'd been see for the first time in decades. If she takes this money, she's agreeing with Adrian that the moment meant nothing. That it was just a transaction. Clara reaches out to check. Adrian smirks, slowly, deliberately. Clara tears the check in HALF, then in QRDARS. She lets the pieces flutter onto the expensive Persian rug. Adrian's face goes blank with shock. His smirk vanishes. You can't buy Scarpetta, Mr. Blackwood. Clara says quietly. And you can't buy me. She turns to Beatrice, who's watching with a look of profound satisfaction. When do I start? Titus Tieden. Sometimes the most valuable things in life can't be bought. Sometimes all someone needs is to be seen. And sometimes, one word in the right language at the right moment changes everything.